Land Rover sells a vehicle that can cross a desert to somebody whose hardest journey is a multi-story car park. It also sells one to a farmer who will never wash it. Both of them paid for the same engineering. Number 1 is the only owner on this list who actually uses it. Number 14, the Evoque owner. Let's start with the model that made Land Rover a genuinely mainstream brand, and with the owner everybody else in this video quietly looks down on. The Evoque was designed to look like a concept car that escaped, and it sold in numbers the company had never seen before. It brought in buyers who had never considered the brand and were never going to leave a paved road. This owner knows that and does not care. They bought it because it looks better parked outside a house than anything else at the price, and that is a completely legitimate reason to buy a car. You can spot them by the wheels. They are larger than anybody engineering the suspension would have chosen, and the tire sidewall is thin enough to make every pothole a personal event. What the purists miss about this owner is what they funded. The volume the Evoque generated is a large part of why the company could afford to develop everything further up this list, including the vehicles those same purists admire. There is one thing worth knowing if this is you. The 2-liter Ingenium engines from 2015 through 2018 carried documented timing chain wear, and the buying advice from independent specialists is to avoid those years without verified proof of a chain replacement. The next one bought theirs for the shape alone. Number 13, the Velar owner. If the Evoque owner bought a look, this one bought a statement about design, and they will tell you which museum has one in its collection. The Velar arrived with flush door handles that deploy when you approach, a dashboard with 2 screens stacked on top of each other, and proportions that reviewers described using words normally reserved for furniture. This owner has strong opinions about interiors. They can tell you what the material on the seats is called, and it is not leather, and they consider that a feature rather than a compromise. What they are less keen to discuss is the electronics. 2 screens means 2 things that can freeze, and the flush handles are a genuinely clever solution to a problem that did not previously exist. It is also the model that shows where the brand was heading. Land Rover spent decades selling capability, and here it sold proportion and surface finish instead, to a buyer who never wanted the other thing in the first place. Ask them about it, and you get an honest answer though. This is not somebody in denial. They made a trade, and they know exactly what they traded. Somebody read the reliability data first. Rare on this brand. Number 12, the Freelander 2 owner. Here is the owner who read the reliability data before they bought, which in this brand puts them in a minority. The Freelander 2 with the Ford-sourced 2.2-liter diesel is rated by specialists as the most reliable entry point into the brand for a modern family vehicle. Efficient, straightforward, and with parts that are widely available. That last part matters more on a Land Rover than almost anywhere else. An engine that was not designed in-house by a company known for complexity turns out to be exactly what a used buyer wants. You can identify this owner by what they do not have. No air suspension, no adaptive dampers, no terrain modes they have never selected. They bought the version with the fewest systems, and they did it deliberately. There is a wider lesson in this one that applies to everything else in this video. On this brand, the systems you do not have are worth more than the systems you do, because every one of them is a thing that ages, fails, and gets quoted for at a labor rate you will remember. The one thing to watch on high-mileage examples is occasional oil pump failure, so any drop in oil pressure gets taken seriously rather than monitored. Beyond that, this is the quiet success story of the Range. Then comes the school run and something genuinely capable. Number 11, the Discovery Sport owner. This is the family vehicle owner, and the interesting thing about them is how much capability they are carrying around unused. The Discovery Sport does the school run, the supermarket, the motorway to visit relatives, and occasionally a muddy field at a sports fixture. That last one is the entire justification for the rest, and they are not wrong to want it. A car park in February with a slope and wet leaves is where all-wheel drive earns its money, and this owner has been quietly grateful about 4 times a year. The interior tells the story. There is a system for the boot, something wedged into the 3rd row, and a level of organization that only develops in a vehicle that carries other people's children. They are also the owner most likely to have bought on monthly cost rather than list price, which is how most of these vehicles actually leave a showroom. That changes what matters. A finance deal ends after 3 years. A timing chain problem does not. If this is you, the thing that matters most is the engine underneath. The early Ingenium diesels want oil changes every 7,000 miles rather than the factory interval, and specialists are clear that this single habit changes the reliability outcome measurably. If you found this already video helpful, you'll definitely enjoy my ebook. You can get it through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen. The limited time offer ends soon, so don't miss out. And don't forget to subscribe. Number 10. The Range Rover Sport owner. Somebody looked at the Range and decided the problem with a Range Rover was that it was not fast enough. The Sport is the one that goes places quickly, and the owner is usually the person in the fast lane you assumed would be driving a German saloon. They chose this instead, and they have reasons. They will tell you what is under the bonnet within about 90 seconds of meeting you, and if the answer involves a supercharger, they will make sure you know. There is a warning that belongs to this owner specifically, and it is the most expensive one in the video. The 5-liter supercharged V8 and the 3-liter supercharged V6 use plastic timing chain guides, covered by Technical Service Bulletin LTB 00474 NAS3. It is worth understanding why the supercharged version specifically. High heat and pressure from forced induction accelerate timing chain wear, which is exactly why the naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 has a far better reputation for the same basic engine. The symptom is a rattle on cold start, and the outcome, if it is ignored, is a new engine at $18,000 to $25,000. That is why the cold start matters more than the test drive on this particular model. A 7-seater for hatchback money. There is a reason. Number 9. The Discovery 3 and 4 owner. This is the owner who found an enormous, genuinely capable 7-seat vehicle for the price of a small hatchback, and then discovered why. The Discovery 3 and 4 depreciated harder than almost anything else in the class, which put a serious piece of engineering within reach of people who could never have bought one new. The catch is the air suspension. On these vehicles, unresolved faults carry repair costs that exceed the value of the vehicle itself, which is precisely why the cheap ones are cheap. So this owner divides into 2 groups very quickly. The ones who learned how the system works and the ones who are about to. What makes this owner sympathetic rather than foolish is that the vehicle underneath is genuinely excellent. 7 proper seats, a 2-speed transfer box, and real capability, in a package that costs less used than a Super Mini. The engineering was never the problem. The learning curve is steep, but it is not mysterious. Park it overnight, look at all 4 corners in the morning, and if it is sitting unevenly, you have found your answer before you spent anything. Its newer replacement tows something most weekends. Number 8. The Discovery 5 owner. Same nameplate, different decade, and a completely different relationship with the vehicle. The Discovery 5 with the 3-liter SDV6 is described as delivering the reliability the brand promised, built on architecture derived from the earlier diesel V6 lineage without its fatal flaws, with genuine 200,000-mile potential when maintained properly. This owner tows. There is a caravan, a horse box, a boat, or a trailer full of something, and the towing capacity was checked before anything else on the specification sheet. They also know their vehicle meets the emission standards for every clean air zone in the country without modification, and they checked that too, because this is a person who checks things. This owner also tends to be the one who did the arithmetic on the whole ownership rather than the purchase. Fuel, tires, servicing, and the cost of the thing being off the road during a holiday week all worked out in advance. What separates them from number 9 is one word: documentation. Full service history is not a nice extra on this platform. It is the entire difference between a good buy and an expensive lesson. Nobody in the next chapter has engaged low range. Number 7. The new Defender owner. Land Rover brought back the most loaded name in the entire off-road world, and then sold most of them to people who use them like a large estate car. The new Defender is genuinely capable. It is also comfortable, quiet on the motorway, and easy to park, which are 3 things the old one was emphatically not. This owner catches criticism from purists constantly and has developed a very good answer to it. They point out that they can actually use it every day, which is more than can be said for the vehicle the purists are defending. There is one thing that will make this owner's ownership noticeably better, and it costs almost nothing. Jaguar Land Rover issued service message SSM 76042 about wind and tapping noise from the A-pillar and windscreen area at motorway speeds, covering models from the 2022 model year onward. The other thing worth checking on these is far simpler and costs nothing. Owners consistently report that a roof rack makes wind noise dramatically worse, and that a clean roofline is almost silent. If the rack lives up there permanently and you use it twice a year, take it off and listen. If your Defender is loud above 70, that is a documented issue with a documented investigation behind it, not something you have to accept. Now the flagship, and the owner who explains the most. Number 6. The Range Rover owner. The flagship, and the owner who has to explain the most. A Range Rover occupies a strange position in the culture. It is simultaneously the most capable luxury vehicle made and a shorthand for a certain kind of person, and this owner has heard both versions many times. What they actually bought is a vehicle that will cross a field and then arrive somewhere formal without anybody noticing where it has been. Almost nothing else does both. They will also, if you ask honestly, admit to a warranty conversation. Nobody owns one of these out of warranty without a plan, and this owner has one. They also tend to have very specific views on which generation to own. Ask them, and you get a year range rather than a model name, because on this vehicle, the difference between two adjacent production years can be the difference between a good decade and an expensive one. The plan usually involves knowing which independent specialist to call, because dealer labor rates on this platform are what turns a fault into a story you tell for years afterwards. One owner knows the bulletin numbers by heart. Number 5. The owner who mastered the claim process. Every brand has these owners. On this one, they are essential. This person knows their coverage in detail, knows which failures are documented, and knows the difference between a technical service bulletin and a recall. That distinction is worth real money on this brand. Take the 3-liter diesel V6 crankshaft failure. Land Rover documented it in Bulletin LRTIS 2016089 with fault codes P06DD, P132A, and P1335, and it typically appears between 80 and 120,000 miles. An owner who walks into a workshop knowing that bulletin number is having a completely different conversation from one who walks in describing a noise. Same vehicle, same fault, different outcome. The same thinking applies to the emission system on the diesels. A fault in the selective catalytic reduction system produces a countdown of 249 miles to no restart, and a dealer quote covering that and the diesel particulate filter can exceed $7,000. This owner knows that before it happens rather than after. This owner also knows the 8-speed automatic is described by the manufacturer as filled for life, while the company that actually built the gearbox specifies 50 to 75,000 miles or 8 years. They service it on the gearbox maker's schedule. $15 of desiccant saves a component costing thousands. Number 4. The one who fixes it themselves. Now we reach the owners who stopped paying other people, and this is where Land Rover ownership becomes genuinely interesting. The air suspension compressor is the case study. The desiccant inside it saturates over time, which restricts airflow, which makes the compressor overheat and burn out, and the powder then migrates into the valve blocks and causes further faults. Here is what this owner knows that most do not. A rebuild kit costs around $50, and the desiccant itself around $15, and none of this appears in any service schedule anywhere. Read that again, because it explains the entire economics of owning one of these. A $15 consumable that nobody tells you about is what destroys a component that costs thousands to replace. What genuinely separates this person is that they stopped treating faults as events and started treating them as maintenance. A saturated desiccant is not a breakdown. It is a consumable that nobody wrote down, and once you know that, the vehicle becomes a completely different proposition to own. This owner also knows about coil conversions, around $1,000 to $1,500 against roughly $6,000 for the dealer route, and a vehicle that will never give them that fault again. Somewhere out there is one that has never been washed. Number 3. The working owner. Somewhere out there is a Land Rover that has never been photographed, never been detailed, and never once been driven for pleasure. This is the farm vehicle, the estate vehicle, the one that carries fencing and feed and a dog that has its own permanent seat. It is on its second engine, and nobody in the family finds that remarkable. What this owner has that nobody else in this video has is proof. Every capability the marketing department has ever described is being used, in bad weather, on ground that would strand almost anything else. They also have the least sentimental relationship with it of anybody here. It is a tool. When it stops being useful, it will be replaced, and there will be no ceremony. They are also the reason the reputation exists in the first place. Every marketing image of one of these vehicles crossing something difficult is borrowing credibility from people like this, who did it on a Tuesday because a gate needed fixing. Which is exactly why they are worth listening to. Ask a working owner which model to buy, and you get an answer stripped of everything except whether the thing works.
Older than most viewers and still starting every morning.
Number 2. The Classic Restorer. This owner has a vehicle from a period when Land Rover built things with hand tools and expected you to maintain them the same way. The 300 TDI remains the undisputed champion of longevity across the entire range, and the reason is everything it does not have. No high-pressure common rail system, no diesel particulate filter, no selective catalytic reduction, no electronics that go obsolete. Every one of those absences is a component that cannot fail, and a part number that cannot be discontinued in 15 years. This owner accepts the trade completely. It is slow, it is loud, and it will not pass a modern emissions zone. What it will do is start, and keep starting, long after everything newer in this video has been scrapped. Ask them about the newer models, and you get a considered answer rather than a dismissal. They understand exactly why modern vehicles have the systems they have, and they simply decided they did not want to own any of them. They also have a shed. There is no version of this owner without a shed, and inside it is a set of parts they bought because they came up cheap and will be needed eventually. Which leaves the one who actually goes somewhere. Number 1. The Overlander. Everybody else in this video bought the promise. This is the one person who cashed it. You know them by the vehicle. A roof tent, a second battery, recovery gear that has been used rather than displayed, and tires chosen for a surface rather than for a wheel arch. They also chose their model on completely different criteria from everybody else. Simplicity over specification, mechanical systems over electronic ones, and parts availability in places where a dealer network does not exist. Which is why so many of them end up in exactly the vehicles from numbers 2 and 3. This owner understands the drivetrain properly as well. Full-time all-wheel drive with a center differential and a 2-speed transfer box, which means there is no part-time system to misuse, and the terrain response settings are doing something real rather than decorative. And here is the thing that connects all 14 people in this video. The Evoque owner in a car park and the Overlander in a riverbed bought vehicles from the same company, built on the same engineering philosophy, sold on the same promise. One of them is using about 2% of it. The other is using all of it. Neither of them is wrong, because the promise was real in both cases, and that is the genuinely unusual thing about this brand. Almost every other manufacturer sells capability nobody can access. This one sells capability almost nobody uses, and then a small number of people go out and prove it was there the whole time.